It's showing me it is recording.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the AI bot thing on.
I just delete the
Requires a
videos.
recording.
I only use the text. That makes sense?
I mean, these are good meetings to have internally. I think Luke was saying you want to make an artifact that you're going to share on YouTube. Maybe you want to stop and start it again. So you have two artifacts. So you're not going to break this one up in the middle.
I do, but missing the point is that this video is now recording on my computer. And the other one's up in the cloud somewhere where it's interpreting the text. It's turning into text. Does that make sense? Two different videos.
Sure.
I don't use the other one. The only reason it exists is for it to do the AI work on.
Mhm.
And otherwise, I'm showing my fucking chest off here. Barbarians. How hairy is your chest, Luke?
It's pretty airy.
Yeah.
I'm not demonstrating.
You're not demonstrating? Yeah. Anyway, we got Brandon with that one. We got Brandon.
Unlike you, I'm going to keep both my pants and my shirt on.
I have pants on.
You guys are lucky that I am HR and PR.
Anyway. All right. So anyway, what are we talking about? What do we got this week? Anything interesting this week to talk about?
Trump did exactly what we want him to be doing to CNN.
What did he do? I didn't see it.
His mere presence on a stage destroys the mainstream media every single time. And it was hilarious because they're the ones that put him there this time.
Yeah. They invited him.
Well, that's what they did last time because they thought that would ensure Republican loss.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it. So are there any highlights you can describe or?
He was vengeful Trump. He was calling her a terrible person to her face in the middle of the interview and getting applause from the audience. It was fantastic.
It's dark MAGA ago.
Yeah.
Now we have to go watch the damn thing.
Yeah. I mean, she was lying about his tweets on January 6th. So he pulled out a sheet of paper that had his tweets on it. It was like, you can see right here. This is exactly what I said. You're not telling the truth.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, he destroyed her.
Oh shit. He's like just loves to fight, man. He just loves it.
And of course, Tucker is moving to Twitter, which probably does even more to destroy mainstream media.
Yeah.
Did she realize she was getting owned?
I don't know.
Was she any good?
I think she could feel that the crowd realized it.
Uh-huh.
But they're like Martin was saying, their whole play is they want him to be the candidate because they think he's beatable, right? Because they he's going to be the one that they've already demonstrated they can beat. So they're perfectly fine with him being the candidate, and this is how they make sure that happens. So
Even if he doesn't win, what he achieves during the campaign is priceless. So
the damage he does to them is worth running him for the next 10 election cycles if we can.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he is beatable by stealing the election. Amazing.
He doubled down on a lot of stuff. He's playing to the choir, right? I mean, that's what I heard. So that was my only question. How did Trump do in the debate? Let me just pull up the news here. I don't bring up the Ukraine thing on this crew because you guys don't seem to like it. So fireworks at CNN MAGA town hall, crowd cheers. Trump plays greatest hits, calls host nasty person. Anybody understand what's going on at the border? You guys, is that any of you guys paying up attention to that issue?
An invasion?
Okay, well, I mean, something a little more precision.
A metered invasion?
I missed your
I'm
adjective.
working
Luke.
very hard to get them out.
Controlled invasion? Where they're timing the entries so they can transport them effectively?
All right, so there's no, if you have anything smart to say about that, I don't. Anything smart to say about Tucker on Twitter?
It's a good thing.
Twitter is now the mainstream media.
So what's interesting is his use of Twitter keeps him in front of people, gets him attention, a lot of directions, but he's got $100 million offer out there. But they owe him what? I think they owe him 80 or $100 million anyway. So it depends on how successful he is on Twitter. We could get him and then Megan and a couple of others. It'd be interesting too, right? In other words, Bill O'Reilly, Megan, what's her name? I can't remember. The other girls, the other Fox chicks over there. That would be interesting. What do you think? What's the matter, Luke? What are you laughing at? Because you can't fool me. I know when shit goes across through your mind. So Megan Kelly, that's what I'm thinking of. I don't think Twitter is really structured to promote this stuff well, though.
Yet,
Yeah. I guess encrypted messages are coming out today.
yeah, Elon said he didn't want to read your messages, even if he was asked to.
What's that?
Said he didn't want to be able to read them, even if he was asked to.
Who said that?
Elon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's him protecting Twitter more than anything else. He's not. And when they say give us all the stuff, he's like, I can't. It's all encrypted. So takes that lever off the board.
Any predictions of how Tucker will do on Twitter?
Very well.
I mean, I'm going to watch the fucking thing. I mean, I wouldn't watch him on Fox News, but I'll watch him on Twitter.
Right.
Unless he gets he goes too many tinfoil on me.
I think they're just going to go the Christian route, really.
Yeah.
I'm curious if his television audience will follow him to Twitter at all.
I'm also curious about that.
That happened. That would be hella good for Twitter.
That would be very good for Twitter.
His posts are getting over 100 million views, whereas his time slots on television crashed completely.
Yeah.
I don't know what the figures were like on TV.
Millions. Not 100, certainly not 100 million.
But then he has much higher audience now.
What was that?
Presumably because his audience is now global.
Yes.
Which I don't like.
You don't like his audience being global?
No, I don't like anyone's audience being global. It's bad for them. It's bad for the people they serve. And the world needs to get more American, not more global. So there's that.
At least our world does. So what about the effect on advertisers? I mean, are advertisers going to jump off the ship if, in other words, will Twitter's advertising issue get better or worse?
I've never delved into Twitter ads, really.
Well, I mean, that's been their problem, right? Is that the activists tried to get everybody tried to cancel all the advertisers, which has drove down the revenue in Twitter. So he's trying to get advertising revenue back.
Imagine video and video chat, and then payments are going to afford him other avenues to revenue, and that interruption advertisement. If he was smart, he would remove it from his site.
You said that before, is that the problem is being based on advertising makes you have malincentives.
That's the platform's version of chasing likes.
Right, yeah, oh God. You know, you have to say things like that, they're just like, it hurts. Excuse me, allergies bother me. What's your consensus on Biden, given that he's, I mean, it's really falling apart. I don't understand how they can run this guy. Are they gonna do what I said they might do last week, which is just let him take the burn and then have him drop out, or have him try to get elected and then drop out so they can put somebody new in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought they would have done that halfway through his term already. So
I thought so too.
I think they might very well get him elected again, or try to.
Yeah, sure.
It's also a demoralization strategy, letting people be ruled by someone like that.
Right.
yeah, it'll be interesting who they run with him, because that's who they're going to actually, they'll get him elected, and then he'll have to step down for health reasons, and that whoever ran with him will become the president. So,
You know, I'm go ahead.
I've seen a couple clips of Harris recently, and she's got to be intoxicated when she's speaking. I mean, it's gibberish.
It's frightening. It's frightening. It's frightening that she can be. I mean, they picked on Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle was not a moron. He was a pretty good guy, but he would make he'd make the spelling error on tomato. Or it's like what's his name Biden stumbles all the time, but they picked on Gerald Ford because he slipped on the sidewalk a few times. I don't know. I got two questions. One is remind me about democracy. If I forget, right? Remind me about the democracy issue. So the other thing is that I don't know if you guys are into this, but of course I'm in the international thing. So Turkey's having an election, I think this weekend, and it's between the current president, who's very dictatorial and very supportive of Islamism, and a guy that wants to go, a guy that just his name is Kılıçdaroğlu. I don't know. I can't fucking remember it. Turkish is one of those names which I can't fucking do. So he wants to move back to democracy and develop relations with the West, because he wants the kids to stop leaving Turkey and going to work in the West. Because it's depleting them. And their economy is, of course, out of control. So where we have inflation, they have way worse inflation. So I would like to, I mean, I'm torn. I don't know what your opinion are, is that I think Islamic countries have no place in the Eurosphere because we're just too different. On the other hand, Turkey is maybe religiously Muslim, but they're ethnically Greek. So, or genetically Greek. So which way would we want Turkey to go? Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, it would be strategically better for us to have a democratic Turkey, but that wasn't in the EU. It's still in NATO, but not in the EU. Just wondering what your thoughts are.
Who's the us? Like us, the United States, us,
Just with the West,
stewards of the law, us, the West.
The West in general.
In what sense is it better? Because I view imposition of democracy on a country as making it weaker and ensuring its decline and fall.
Well, when I use the word democracy, I mean rule of law. And when you use the word democracy, you mean democracy.
Yeah, because that's what it means.
Which is why I said if I forget, remind me to bring up the topic of democracy. Because
We're gonna have to vote on whether we talk about that.
Well, here we are.
why do we have to vote on talking about it? I don't get it.
Because it's democracy.
Oh shit. Right over my head. All right, so there's rule of natural law, rule of law, whether by natural law or not, right? There is concurrent democracy or democracy, majority democracy. And so when people say, this is why I bitch about people using the word democracy. Democracy is concurrent democracy, right? It's not majority democracy. That's what we have. Nobody has had majority democracy because it's suicidal, right? So, so we have what we talk about, what we should be pushing is rule of law by the natural law. But our government wants rule of law independent of natural law, and the left wants democracy independent of concurrency.
We shouldn't even call it rule of law if it's not natural law, because it's not
Right.
law.
It's rule of procedure, right? It's rule of due process. So we have this terrible spectrum, and it goes along. It's like one of those basic things that the people don't understand. Like it's like we need Schoolhouse Rock for this. This is the purpose, is to make sure that there's consensus, not that anybody's got better ideas than anybody else, but we've all agreed on something instead of law creating divisiveness. So is there any what does the left hear when they hear democracy? They just hear majority rule, right? That's all they hear. Rule by popular opinion.
Yeah,
It's
they get a
not,
say.
well, really, it means that they are winning. That's what democracy means for them.
Okay. Means they get to impose a cost, that they get to vote, that they get a say, despite not knowing how to use that say, or producing the things necessary in order to be gifted that say.
Yeah. If there's enough of us, there are no limits.
If the right is winning in any way, that's a danger to democracy.
That's one of my favorites.
What's your view on this? Because I know you've thought about this a lot.
Yeah, well, I'd see kind of, if you think in terms of universal suffrage, it's kind of a baseline to consume. So it's a claim of a certain baseline of consumption, regardless of how much you've invested in the commons.
You're beautiful. That was really good.
Universal franchise is
If you
franchise
don't think
communism.
you're a smart guy, you keep talking like that. Can't mess with you. You're just as bad as the rest of them. I can't mess with you at all.
No, you can keep trying. You might all of your ability.
What are you gonna do? Taking lessons from Luke?
Just keep working at it. You'll get better.
Love you, man. All right, so I just cut some people off with that humor. I'm sorry. Back to democracy. Jacob sciences it, which is beautiful. So what, Martin, you're really saying is they don't care what the truth is. They just want what they want.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not about rules that produce fair play so that everybody agrees on them. It's just that they want to win.
No, it's the so-called right Republicans that want fair play, and that is why they're losing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rules that restrain their opponents.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole point is to get consensus, right? Compromise between different agendas. What they think in good and evil, and we think in consent.
because
Okay.
it has to be compromised in a common aim, and there's not a common aim.
Right. So are we back to, there's just no way to resolve this freaking problem?
There is no way to resolve this freaking problem.
Just no way.
Democracy is part of that problem. Absolutely.
I know you're on it. Can you explain why you have such a severe attitude about this? Because I don't. I view it as, well, I mean, concurrency is a good thing. And I don't know if I believe in universal suffrage, right? I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. But anybody who's demonstrated competency and to contribution, I don't know why their opinion is irrelevant. Can you explain to me?
Well, that's very far off from what anyone thinks of when he thinks of democracy today.
All right, so you're not disagreeing with that that some sort of participatory government is possible, is useful or viable or good. You're saying
For
well-
people that demonstrate responsibility.
say that again?
For people that demonstrate responsibility over what they're trying to have a say over.
Right, exactly. So you're saying that would be okay.
Probably.
Yeah. Ooh, that was hard, Mark. Did that hurt you to say that? Did you feel physical pain?
Yes.
You should have to produce and defend the things that you are voting over. The changes in states of those things that you're voting over. You should have to be producing and defending them, not simply consuming them. So any arena in which you produce and defend the capital of that arena, you can have a say in that arena. The political is defense of your people. Everyone uses the term like, I would die for my country, or I would die for the things that I would love, things like that, except men kill for the things they love.
Yeah.
Always, and never haven't.
Yeah.
So that's baseline. Will you kill for the things that you love?
Yeah.
Right.
Because anyone
Dying
can
for
die
it.
for the things that they love.
Dying for it is romanticizing an avoidance of responsibility.
Yeah.
It's assuming someone will respond to martyrdom. If we're in total war, nobody will.
Yes.
You die for nothing.
But Jacob, how do I get you to interrupt and opine more without teasing you?
Well, it might just be my Canadian politeness.
So we have
I'm not all that great at interrupting.
you need to interrupt. All right.
All right, well, yeah, well, something I was actually going to bring up is I put out a tweet about a month ago, and I kind of listed 4 or 5 questions that any voting system has to answer. Like, for example, like not just who gets to vote, but which domain are you voting on? How much does a vote weigh relative to another one?
Mhm.
I kind of ended that, and I said that you can answer all these questions within a reciprocal framework. The problem with majoritarian democracy is it does the opposite. It doesn't answer. It answers these questions, but not reciprocally.
Yes. So again, you're just saying what you're saying the same thing I am, which is that the problem is constraining the competency demonstrates that you can have an opinion. The concurrency says that you have opinion within a domain. Maybe that's not precise enough. And that we probably are not precise enough as it is to saying, well, why should you have an opinion on that? Right? I mean, that was how we just, I mean, here's the argument in the history. You give everybody the same vote. You give people a different weighted vote. You do economic democracy where you vote the number of dollars you're paid in taxes, right? Those are the three ways. Wait a minute, did I do that? Oh, yeah, so the first one is proportion, the first one is universal, the second is competency, and the third is contribution. And this is a hard problem. I don't, before the great divide created by the left, it isn't clear that democracy didn't do a fairly good job in America. I think that we can all agree that unfortunately women have been the primary axis of defection that determines the change in elections.
Well, I asked that earlier. Women are very sensitive to narratives, so female suffrage is basically for whoever controls the narrative to control
Right.
the outcome.
Oh, so depressing.
It's not just women, it's a lot of other normie men.
It's that there's some men, but there's a lot of women, right? That's the problem. And there's enough women that defect off. I mean,
And then there are other blacks, of course, many Mexicans and so on.
Right. Okay, so it's not that what I'm trying to get at, Marta, is not that political participation is useless. It's that, or it's necessarily harmful. It's that malincentives are harmful, regardless of where they are, including in voting. Is that the right idea? Or the ability to, and that cognitive bias, maybe moral bias, is harmful. I mean, how do we sort for that? Because we can't give people personality tests, right?
You cannot vote over something which you cannot predict outcome of. For starter. Which disqualifies women pretty much.
Ouch.
Voting is also a mechanism to come to decisions when you can't come to a decision.
Well, the reason we have voting, right, originally is that there are scarce resources. First of all, basically, it all comes down to scarce in the West, scarce resources, right, and non-scarce demands. And so that's number one. And the second thing is priorities, right? So you have to choose the priority. That might be at a resource like income or money, or it might be on behavior. Like, are we going to change the cost of this behavior? I don't see those as bad. What I see is that you have irresponsible people voting for irresponsibility. I mean, the only way to do it I can think of is bait people into irresponsible votes, and then you say and then those votes don't count. I mean, I don't know how do you do it? How do you determine who's responsible and not?
Those are just the Democrats.
If you vote Democrat, your vote doesn't count.
Solve the problem.
Oh, so
turn the parties into houses, and if you vote for Democrats, then Democrat policies only apply to you.
Interesting. So what you're saying is flip voting around and say,
if Democrats want to take away guns, take away Democrat guns.
right, so that's you can vote for your team, not for both teams.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, aren't you saying flip voting around? It's saying that you're bound by what you must pay for whatever you vote for. Isn't that basically the issue?
Your vote applies to your commons.
So in the end, we really have to separate, right? There's no way out of this. Now, can we convince people of that fact? But there's no way out of it.
Increasingly more, at least.
Well, I mean, if they keep sending immigrants into the cities at the rate they're sending them, you won't have a choice but to wall them off and patrol the borders of them.
So let me try this again. So why does a liberal not want to separate into red and, devolve the federal government such that red and white states can have their own?
They are on the winning side of the parasitism scheme.
Because it's essentially Trotsky's philosophy. It's or ideology. It needs to conquer the whole world.
Well, they would say, well, I want to be able to go there. And then, well, yeah, but they don't want you. So what? I want to be able to go there. Well, it's just basically,
Well, they eliminated that logic with civil rights law.
Yeah.
It absolutely shouldn't matter according to them that they're not wanted somewhere.
Yeah. So, I just don't understand why people would be so frustrated by not being able to just continue to separate. I mean, you'd have a lot of red states and a few blue ones. If we separated the cities, there would be more red than blue, right? There would be just blue cities. They could have whatever they want, and the rest of us could have whatever they want, and
They
So-
want it all. That's the thing.
right. And so what you're saying, Martin, is that what you say is they're parasitic, but what they're going to say is, yeah, but the blue places produce the most revenue that's contributed to the government.
That's not what they. Yeah, sorry.
So the red states are net consumers, but he says, which thing are you producing? You might be producing wealth because of density, because that's easy, but you're not producing commons, right? You're doing the opposite, which is the conservatives are doing the opposite. They're producing a high trust polity with high trust commons, and you're preventing them from maintaining it. So it's more that the conservatives are bearing the brunt of the costs, right? In both cases. So I don't understand I just understand why we can't separate. I just don't get it. I'm really just asking for you guys to talk about this.
Because just conservatives, well, whites existing, so they view that as evil, something that has to be ended.
Is it true if it's foreign rather than domestic? In other words, if the people in California want to be suicidal, do the conservatives care? Or do they only care that they're among the
Conservatives don't care, but it's the Californians that have a problem with whites existing in flyover states in peace.
I think the problem is more ambiguous, meaning the incentives layer that lays over the political layer, the action at a social level. People are more disconnected from their environment than ever before, despite having all the communications capacities we ever could want. But by far. And they don't have to defend anything, and you can buy your way out of most compromises or cooperative endeavors you'd have to undertake.
Right.
Right? You can't get something from your wife, you just pay for it from Amazon. They're being made individually dysfunctional in very unique ways. It's not good for them.
I think in a lot of ways, both sides really resent each other and are acting out that resentment, right? I mean, if you want to behave like the right, you want, your safe neighborhoods, you want your well-educated kids, you want your building companies and organizations that are being prosperous and productive, you produce the right. If you want to chase degeneracy and you want to have all the novelty and all that kind of stuff, you're going to produce the left, and the right wants all that stuff. And so they resent the fact that the left's getting away with doing it. And the left wants all the stuff that the right produces. And they resent the fact that the right's getting away with doing it. And so they're acting out on that resentment too. I mean, nobody has the self-discipline to not chase what the other side has.
Okay, so get back to the question of that brings back the question that, well, I mean, we understand that this is largely genetic, right? It's partly genetic, partly cultural, right?
I think a lot on the left are really just going along with the narrative that forms how they live and who they hate, who they like.
Right, of course.
They don't have thoughts of their own.
Okay, but so that's okay. That's still empathizing, systematizing, right? That's what's happening. So the question is, if why is it impossible for us to say to the left, we just can't live together anymore? We don't need to live together anymore. There's no value in it.
That's what I'm getting at. Most of the right wants to keep living together. They want access to all the things the left has. They want all the toys. They want all the entertainment. They want all the novelty. They want all the distraction. They want all the escapism. They want all the toys that the left has.
Right does?
Yeah.
They want all the hedonism?
Yes.
Then what's the right objecting to?
That's not a real right then.
Right, I agree. It's not the real right, but it's a lot of the people that call themselves the right.
I think people are very simple. Is that you're making my life more difficult from raising my kids. All right, it's basically families versus individuals. As far as I can tell, that's the divide.
Compatibility comes before cooperation. Compatibility is broken.
Right, we're not compatible. Well, the thing is, why do we need to be compatible? We've got, we're not
We've specialized or broken apart at our biases. We're supposed to be a wedded thing. We're not wedded anymore.
There's no reason to wed. It's like the same problem with the sex.
There was compatibility was the reason to be wedded, but now
we're not. But now we're not compatible, right?
There's only one persistent strategy. There isn't a way for the left to break up. There isn't a way for the consumers to break off from the producers, and the consumers are 80% of the people. Yeah, but I mean, let's take this for example. If you raise the standard of behavior back to what it should be for reciprocity, high trust, or whatever, we were really harsh on crime and public hedonism and public, basically what we consider baiting our children into hazards, right? If we raise those standards back up, right, it made it legal enforceable. I was thinking, shoot, the kid comes into your sticks a gun in your face. Well, you're obligated to kill him, right? It's not like you're right. You're obligated to shoot the criminal, not that you have to give it up. So if you're obligated to police the commons, we do that. Of course, what'll happen is that Martin's correct. But a lot of these people are bots. They're going to go to the place that's safest, right? With a high, and the people who aren't going to go there. So I don't understand why we don't let the sortition happen. And you'll basically have urban prison colonies.
Yeah, then we have to ensure that if they go to the conservative places, they either don't get to have any opinion whatsoever, just demonstrate that they have totally integrated and now believe in the conservative values.
And that question was phrased like, if we implement the law, won't it get better? Yeah, that's the whole point. That's why we're here every week.
As it is now, those people escape consequences of their action and go destroy another state.
Right. So the real answer, which Luke was trying to get at, directly or indirectly, is that some of us are willing to bear the responsibility of producing the high trust comments because we're willing to police it. And some of them who would prefer to live in the high trust body just don't want the responsibility to police it. Is that what I understand? I mean, because that seems like the answer. That's really the problem for a lot of people who are sort of wishy-washy in the middle.
Policing the commons as they exist, or as we would like to exist, becomes increasingly a dangerous thing, right, in the world as it trends. So people are becoming less and less able to bring about the future that they want. That's why everyone is sorting and running away, because there's problems everywhere. So they're running, but they're leaving all the capital behind.
Yeah, why that? What the WTF? Why is Tennessee getting an increase in population? Well, who would have thought that 10 years ago? So what I get from you is there's no hope of convincing the other side.
No, you have to start implementing solutions that make the outcomes, meaning that produce commons that people go, well, this is objectively better than it was before. You produce those and people come.
Yeah, it's not even hope. There's no incentive for convincing the other side. They have no incentive to change behavior right now.
I mean, we have incentive to stop them.
Yes.
Correct. We have a duty to stop them. Well, we try to sell it as a moral license. Technically, you should be, or you should be being punished.
Right, if you're not doing it. Well, if you add diversity to a polity, you're going to increase. In diversity meaning people who are not integrating. I don't mean it in the genetic sense, although more people would like it if I did. If you're not, it's a matter what, Brandon, did I make you wince there?
More people probably would. That's
Yeah.
right.
You
They are
probably
tribal.
should be, because even if some integrate, their kids see themselves as separate quite often.
Well, do you know? I mean, is anybody? Brandon, do you have any Irish? Who has Irish in them here? I don't. Right.
I do.
So do you know that during 1800s, the Irish were considered lower than black people?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Right. We changed that fucking thing, right?
Thanks.
No, it wasn't a fucking miracle. I mean, we know how it happened. It was just work, and people wanted to integrate.
Correct.
It was making slaves free that make it apparent that Irish are actually, better.
You don't have to step up if you can create a social class below you.
Yeah, I guess. Brandon.
I think it's easy for people to behave well while they're slaves.
So, what am I getting at? You have no confidence that I'm just trying to work my way toward the point. So you have no confidence we can convince them. But you know that if we actually implemented our laws, that it would fix the problem. Divide people up, raise the standard, people will naturally sort. Right? And then what'll really happen is the other places will have to reform. Because otherwise they're going to turn into favelas, like Los Angeles. So
yeah.
So is the problem what you've got down to is that it's not going to be voluntary, right?
Certainly not from the left.
Yeah, there are enough. Can we convince enough people to join, to get on board that the left? In other words, one of the reasons I brought up the idea of we're willing to take responsibility for policing the commons, and they're not. It's as long as they let us take responsibility for policing the commons, I'm okay with that. Just like I'm okay with women not doing it, right?
We have to start with trials first. That's
what
you have to start with trials from the top.
So,
everybody.
So the problem is then there really is no way except force to make this happen.
I think trials from the top is the popular message. I've been on message for a while.
So let's say it. So elaborate, because I know what you're meaning, but I don't think the audience will understand trial from the top.
I mean, the provable coup happened in 2020, and we should prosecute those who staged it from the top.
So you're
using the military.
What?
Using the military.
Okay.
Or it could be Trump's message, but I don't think he's going to like it, even though he likes the fight. Because he has allies with too many of those who are opposed
you give
to
it
Western. Go ahead.
So, but you're given two arguments. I'm saying, do we have to go right to showing up with 2 million plus guys and demanding it? Or what you're saying is we could try the legal system, we could try the military, and then we could try that. Right? You're saying we still have 3 steps left. Is that what you're saying?
We do them all at the same time. I mean, what I'm proposing is, as a political position, is the lawful one. Like,
Right.
we don't have law. We don't have politics that afford people to get along with one another. So let's reorient the landscape so you can actually play. They're just warring with one another. You can measure it across all the capitals. Just look at all the losses. Destruction of capital across all markets. That's not a polity.
Okay, so
That's a battlefield.
So let's take California. So I can't remember, I think he's ex-sheriff of LA. I'm not positive. I think that's what it is. And he says that what's happened in California is they've built a whole job structure out of facilitating the underclass. And so there's people, they've actually built a political and charitable and political, bureaucratic and charitable infrastructure that benefits from attracting and caring for these people without fixing the problem. In other words, they're incentivized not to fix the problem.
Sure, of course.
They're incentivized to expand the problem.
Right, they
Yes.
expand the problem, right?
Mhm.
And so, which is true, right? We know this is true. I just like the fact that somebody's coming out and talking about it. So what you just said, both Brandon and Luke, was that what's actually going on here then is a crime. Right, it's a crime. It's destruction of common capital.
Yeah, correct.
For profit.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a crime, right? So isn't
I
that
say it's war, but okay.
say what, Martin? What?
I say it's war, but okay.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't well, what's war? Destruction of common.
It's a crime if we're going to continue to call each other in group. It's
Right.
war if we're ready to acknowledge that it's an out group doing this.
Right.
Very smart.
I've been calling them enemy for quite some time now.
Right. But for any individual that's witnessing this, that's a good way to test your own frame. Do you look at this and see crime? If so, you're still calling those people your in group. If you look at this and you see war, then you've already moved to the point where you're calling those people an out group.
Well, when I see the actions, the unintentional undermining the system by places like the Southern Poverty Law Center or the ADL, I mean, that's war. That's seditious. Treason. When I see people who are following rational incentives, who did I just lose?
Jacob, he'll be back.
When I see people like bureaucrats following rational incentives, I see crime. And I mean, that's the difference, right? I mean, they're just following incentives, malincentives are created, and then there's no discipline to stop the malincentives.
Well, then it's treason because they're working for the enemy.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you. I understand why the bad guys are doing the bad things. I'm talking about, if you're opposed to those things, how are you framing it for yourself? Are you engaged in crime fighting, or are you engaged in warfare?
I crime fight locally.
Yes. And just to go back to the point that I was making a little earlier, the recent Bud Light thing, I think, is kind of a case study. For a brief moment, it was novel to behave like a conservative if you are a conservative. And we saw the impact of that using economic methods. And it caused Bud Light to change course entirely on that craziness they were engaged in. Right? So if people that called themselves conservative were willing to actually behave like conservative, we wouldn't have to fight anything. It's not the blue-haired people supporting all the left's business.
Yeah.
It's conservatives supporting all the left's business or government contracts. Those are the two ways that the left's business, the companies that are pushing all this leftist stuff are being supported and still exist.
And the answer is too, is that the financial sector is driving too far more of this than we understood before.
And ESG.
Yes, exactly. They're driving more of this than we had previously presumed.
Well, they're
But
using,
they're not being supported by that underclass. They're not being supported by the left activists. They're not being supported by these people that don't have any resources to support them. They're being supported by the people that have the resources.
yes. That ESG, it's a social credit score for companies to squeeze social credit scores out of people. Because they're setting the parameters for dealing with a global conglomerate that's going to gift you the conveniences that you need because they've stricken you dependent. Very conspiratorial. But it's managing animals, and the less capable humans are, right, the easier they are to manage.
Yes.
We go the other direction. It's like you actually have to be super capable or you need to be managed.
Yes. All right, so we're still getting at we have 3 steps left. But that's it. We have court, military, and showing up ourselves. And so that seems like our bailiwick anyway, right?
Yep.
Right.
And the economic is an option, but I just don't think people are going to choose it.
Those were always our steps. That's what we're just at the end, right? Everyone's
It's always
exhausted.
you know, a plan is something you make and so that you understand the field, right? And then you just I'm just testing the testing.
They're exhausting. They're going to exhaust politics. They're going to exhaust economics. We're telling them don't do that. Forget about exhaust. They're exhausted already. It's deterministic that those things fall apart. You need to start moving with your feet. Go to the end. Go to court, right, and prosecution, and learn how to be a capable thing, because that's what's coming in the future. You're not escaping this. You're not escaping this by being gifted convenience. It's not going to happen.
I wasn't that if court was sufficient to solve the problem, because that would just validate our arguments.
Please. So if we can rush them to court from politics and economics, which we can, because there are plenty of court cases to be had in the realm of politics and economics. So you make everything about bringing any type of compromise in politics and economics to the courts, and you overwhelm the courts, and then you go from there, because there is plenty to overwhelm them with. And then there'll be money in it for the good guys too. Would you be suing the bad guys?
I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
Somebody else has to start something.
What's that? I didn't hear that.
I'm asking someone else to carry the conversation for a moment.
I think all the rest of us have landed on the side of there's not a solution.
Not a political one.
I mean, separation is the solution. It's just how do we get there, right?
Really,
Separation or conquest.
No, we were talking about voting and how to identify who gets to vote and things like that. To me, just awareness of that fundamental question makes it a lot easier. As soon as somebody says, I want, or I think, or I have an opinion, that before they even finish the sentence, you got to think to yourself, why don't I kill you and take your stuff? If there's not an answer to that question, then their wants, their opinions, their thoughts are irrelevant. And they should, it's that same test to whether or not you're voting or not. Are you demonstrating that there's a reason not to kill you and take your stuff?
There's only one answer. The benefits of reciprocity are greater than the benefits of killing you and taking your stuff.
Right. So demonstrate to us that they are.
Martin, you were going to be sarcastic there, I think.
Not at all.
No? I was hoping for
It's
some.
just, yeah, you were just saying it as a statement. So I was asking, are those benefits really greater?
Well, I mean, the problem is over what span of time? Cooperation pretty much always wins over some period of time.
Cooperation with whom? It really depends.
You're just jumping ahead, but yeah. What you mean is reciprocal cooperation is beneficial over time. No? Is that not what you mean?
Well, even then, with people that have something to offer.
Yes. Well, it's just hard. We can't be reciprocal if you don't have anything to offer. Anyway, all right. So what have we come to any brilliant insights here? We're basically saying we've run another test of running through the questions again to see about if we've learned anything, and the answer is the public is basically moving our direction. Brandon's been saying they're going to arrive our direction no matter what, right? I mean, hasn't that been?
There's nowhere for them to go.
Nowhere else?
You're going to be put in contact with nature one way or another. We are the Natural Law Institute.
Luke, you want to repeat? You want to say that from your side because that's so much your angle.
No, that's exactly right. The only thing I'd add to that is that we're still going to be more gentle than nature is, as representatives of nature in the form of natural law. So we're still providing a layer, a buffer between nature eliminating you for your stupidity, giving you the option, affording you the option of surviving your stupidity.
Ow. All right. Okay. I'm trying to think of so 10, 11, 12. Yeah, we're there, right? We use our time. So anybody else have any topics they want to cover or any other thoughts? No? All right. Well, I enjoyed it. Thanks today for the great meeting. Look forward to it. I'll see Brandon and Martin tomorrow. I'll see Luke. When is it? Monday?
Yes.
And then I guess Martin and Jacob, you're going to work on vocabulary. Love you guys. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you.